Okay, we'll walk through this quickly. So as we've understood it, you start with the grower, and as Rorik said, you want to understand what your regulatory constraints are. Maybe you got some partnerships you got going on with your supply chain, and it may have new requirements for you. And then, once you know that and come up with your crop plan, then it's a matter of really understanding what's going on with your soil and through observations and measurements. And that's where both crop metrics and Agsense can come into play. And then working with your trusted agronomists like David Little. And once you know that, then coming up with an irrigation plan that you can execute based on your soil and the weather, et cetera. And when you can execute that with a really precise prescription that can go to a pivot controller like the ones from Agsense that would execute that, whether it's variable speed or variable rate. And then finally, what Agsense and others can give you is an irrigation record that you can supply back if you need to your supply chain or to other regulatory bodies that lets them know how much you put on when and where. So that's sort of like the ecosystem that we're working in. And so does that make sense to you, Terry? And or panel, please react as well. Does that make sense? Anything that we're missing in there?
No, Dan, that really does make great sense from our perspective. There's not one company that's going to provide all the services in the precision irrigation space that the grower needs. So there is a collaboration effort and a collaboration movement that's going on in precision irrigation and precision agriculture. From our point of view, the space that we play in is in essentially the hardware and the software piece of the precision irrigation, in which we make, the components that collect and serve the data up into the cloud.
Great. So let's ask our panel, Chad, Rorik, Steve, do you have any questions for Terry, or is there anything in particular you want Terry to cover before we let loose of you guys and have Terry start his presentation?
I guess to elaborate a little bit more, Terry, this is Rorik. What does that look like in terms of, or how do you feel going forward? If you could put a timeline on that collaboration, is that soon? Is it 18 months? Is it 3 years? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but it's moving quicker than I thought it would initially.
That's a great question, Rorik, and I actually have a slide towards the end of my presentation, and it's really based on the evolution of water management, and it really kind of tells the story of where pieces and parts have been operating individually to now where we're seeing the collaborative effort where the fruits of that are starting to show up. So I'll catch that towards the end of the presentation.
Boy, I love it when a presenter says I have a slide for that. A trained professional. Steve, do you have any questions for Terry?
Not at this time.
And Chad?
No, I'm just looking forward to what he has to say.
All right.
Okay, why don't you, panel gentlemen, go ahead and turn your camera off, and it's your show. Take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Skip, and welcome everybody. I know we're got a lot of busy people out there, and I appreciate you taking the time to join this presentation. Agsense is a company that was built and designed to provide hardware solutions and software solutions in the ag environment. So we're a brand agnostic company, and what that means is we build hardware that can connect up to a number of brands. So for irrigation, our controllers will work with all brands of pivots. Our soil moisture monitoring telemetry connects to multiple brands of soil moistures and technology. And with flow, we tie you into a number of different flow meters. So what you'll notice here on this slide is I have two websites mentioned at the bottom. One is agsense.net and the other one is wagnet.net. Agsense is our user portal, our public website that provides information and quick video tips on how to operate our products. The other wagnet.net is just an acronym for Wireless Ag Network. But the output of what our stuff does is it gives the ability to go to a single web portal to manage and control many different operations around their farm. So they're able to control and monitor irrigation pivots, fans for grain bins. We compile very extensive reports on, say, for instance, acre inches applied. We provide real-time alerts, so if there's been a change in, say, your irrigation system, that the pivot stopped, you will get a text message on that. And finally, this is where we're beginning to get into the precision irrigation, into the next frontiers, being able to evaluate and make better decisions with better information. And I believe one of the panelists mentioned, I think it might have been Steve, you get too much information, it's too complex. Our job as an industry and a focus as a company is to provide those, to collect all that data and all that information, and it's our job to present it in an easy-to-understand format so you can make better decisions more quickly and not have to search and sort for all the information. So, for instance, it's hitting the easy button. The first component piece of our technology I'd like to focus on is essentially the pivot control. Rorik mentioned that telemetry on these pivots is really important to be able to monitor and control his irrigation pivots. As I mentioned, we are a brand agnostic company, so our technology will work with multiple brands across your farm. Most times, growers often have multiple brands of pivots within their operation, so our technology essentially lets those, to the grower, they all operate the same through our WagNet web portal. I have listed here, there's 3 hardware pieces. Field Commander is kind of our bell cow. That piece of that irrigation controller resides out on the end tower of the machine. It has a GPS, a bank of relays, so we can do a lot of control and utilize the GPS for not only speed control, but to control end guns. We know where to speed the pivot up and slow it down through different programs. Commander VP is a piece of hardware that goes specifically into the Valley digital panels. It was made specific for that. And the Precision Link is similar to the Commander VP, but it's built specifically to integrate right into the TNL Precision Point 3 control panel. So all of these products enable the grower to remotely monitor and control his or her irrigation pivots. The next piece of hardware that I would like to focus on is on a multi-purpose device that we call CropLink. And CropLink, just to describe it, as I said, it's a multi-purpose device. It can be used to monitor and control a subsurface drip system. It can control strictly pumps. It can, through a radio, it can communicate to our field commander. So if the field commander detects that the system is stopped, it can send a radio message to shut off the pump. It can read pressure up to 4 different locations, so you can put 4 pressure transducers. That's something you may want to do within a drip situation. It can monitor many different brands and models of flow meters. It also integrates with multiple weather sensors, so it can act as a weather station. So it can send out multiple alerts. And what it really does is it allows us to monitor and control a number of other field attributes other than just the irrigation pivot. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. It doesn't have to be a weather station. It can control a pump as well as be a weather station. So it's a very powerful tool that we have within our product suite. The next piece of hardware that I'd like to touch on is into the soil moisture arena. We have a product named AquaTrack, and AquaTrack is the piece of hardware and the telemetry that integrates with multiple types of soil moisture sensors and technologies, and it simply gets the data to our cloud, the WagNet cloud. And this is really kind of the first piece where we start connecting irrigation to agronomy and crop production. This starts tying all this together. And as I walk through in some upcoming slides, it isn't necessarily telling you the science behind what's going on out there. That's why we partner with folks like Nick at Crop Metrics and work with the boots on the ground with, like, for instance, with David Little. Finally, I'd like to touch on grain bin temperature monitoring. It's not necessarily tied to precision irrigation and water management of row crops. It just gives you an idea of how we can have the ability to remotely monitor and control many different applications around the farm. And the idea is you can go to a single web portal to understand what's going on around your operation. So now this is really the piece that I find exciting as we walk through some different timelines. I know a lot of frustrations with growers in the past has been, you know, what does all this data mean? I'm collecting all this data. When am I ever going to see a benefit? Or is there a benefit? And I think as I walk through kind of some of these timelines, you'll begin to see that, yes, there has been progress made, albeit slow, but we believe that progress with any technology tends to speed up as time goes on. And essentially being able to operate in the cloud and having these different cloud servers and be able to connect to other companies or industry partners is kind of a central theme. So if we go back, we take a look from the Agsense perspective, and we kind of take a walk back in time. 2008, if we talk about what people wanted in irrigation management and remote management, they really wanted to be able to understand what was going on with the irrigation pivot, and if they could send it a command to start or stop the pivot, they were just fascinated that that could actually happen and would actually work. So that was really a big thing within the irrigation business that started down this path of evolution and adoption of remote technology. Then in 2010, Agsense and Crop Metrics actually performed the first wireless data prescription. And what I mean by that is our field commander hardware has the ability to speed the pivot up and slow it down as it moves through the field. And what Crop Metrics had was the analytics and the science behind how much, how fast should the pivot be going at different locations in the field. And they were able to generate a prescription and successfully send it from their servers into our server and then eventually out to their field commander to carry out the prescription. So this was a big step forward of where we are today. 2012 is a really interesting piece, and I know it seems like we've all had smartphones and tablets for years. 2012 was really where the mobile revolution started taking place. Agsense was the first irrigation pivot control company to have a native app, and we have those apps available for the iOS, the Apple platform, and then the Droid platform. what's really interesting in the evolution of mobile devices is in 2012 we had about 10% of our growers using the smartphones and the tablets to operate their monitor control their devices. Today, about 75% of our growers use these mobile devices as their primary means to monitor and control different operations around the farm. So very few of our actual customers use a laptop to monitor and control the different operations or their PC. So the natural extension, after all the craze of the mobile revolution of 2012, 2014, we really started hearing in the market and across the industry is, boy, if we could just connect these servers, you do what you do well, we do what we do well. If we could just connect these servers, that would be great. Okay, so that started taking place in 2014, and it worked well, but it was oftentimes difficult to get into the two companies, the engineering departments, to get the data from point A to point B. And that's where, as Dan mentioned before, brings us to today in 2016 of being able to easily get data from point A to point B. And that's through a lot of work at Ag Gateway and creating standardized data so we could take and make the complex, break it down, and make it easy to understand and easy to access for growers, that we can start helping the growers make sense of all this data. In fact, transform the data into information, which is much different than data, and then beyond that, turn that into actionable items. And one of the most important actionable item is maybe no action at all. And I think that's really key to the adoption of precision irrigation, is when a grower can have more confidence in the decisions they are making, whether perhaps I just need to run the pivot or not run the pivot, irrigation scheduling. And then we take it beyond that. Okay, now I know how fast I need to run across my field. Or better yet, I have an allocated number of acre inches during the year. Where am I? I'm in the middle of July. Am I okay? If I use too much water? So all this technology is starting to coalesce into providing the grower the ability to make better informed decisions. That is essentially the items I wanted to talk about today. We're really passionate about turning a product that has a relay that can start and stop a pivot and transform the irrigation system and connect that irrigation system to a ground crop production. That's all I had for now. Does anybody have any questions?
Coming in as you were speaking, and let's have the panel come back in and join us all. So panel, if you can turn your cameras on. And Dan, why don't you pitch a question to Terry?
So Terry, one of the things that we got, how much of this is available today, do you think, in your last slide? Where are we in reality? Sorry to Rory's question.
Oh, okay. Actually, we're long down the road. But it's not a technology question, it's a system question, and it's a people question. For all this to work, as you showed in your first slide, there's not really one go-to, hit the easy collaboration between what we do as far as collecting and monitoring, controlling the items. Okay, we can do that. Nick has intelligence in his analytics and how to better utilize your water management resources. Okay, so we have that. And then we have David, who his company is focused on, is carrying this out at the local level. We all know that agronomy is intensely local. And if all three legs of the stool aren't working together and working well together, it's not going to get pulled off as well as of these good partners. So the answer is yes, it's all available today. Does it work well? It's all intensely local. It can be good, or you can be disappointed.
So let's ask around the horn on the panel. Chad, what did you like best about Terry's comments, or what was the most important thing he said from your point of view?
I think bringing together information sources to help decision making is paramount, and I'm glad to see people working on that and bringing the service to growers to help not manage their fields but save their time. I think that's really great. What I would ask, I'm going to ask the impolite question. There's got to be something that doesn't work very well, or that you think is the thing that needs the most polish. Where are you going to focus your efforts as an industry innovator for the next year to 5 years?
That's a great question, Chad, because my answer has totally shifted over the years through the Ocean Water Management. Where we will focus our efforts going forward is definitely connecting irrigation to agronomy and crop production. And the way we do that is being able to allow the growers to hit the easy button. Easy to understand information presented to the grower from multiple sources allows them the power of being able to making informed decisions, not just what their gut is telling them. We have to, as a company and as an industry, we all need to work together to make information easy to understand, make it easy to carry the action item or item. So those are the biggest key forward. It's not the click of a relay. It truly is about where all the pain is of trying to make all this, I got all this stuff, but I don't understand, and how do I do it?
Let's use that as a way to bring Nick Emanuel in from Crop Metrics. Nick, if you can join us, turn your phone and your audio on, and just be standing by. But Rory, back to you. What do you think is the most important thing Terry said, or what you like best? And then, do you have a question for him?
Well, I utilize Agsense 110%, and we are committed. My son is actively, and probably does more than I do, but my son returned to the farm 4 years ago here, so it's his fourth season, but is his way to diversify his time and be able to make quicker, more informed decisions. And we have a challenge. We don't know at any particular time how much water we're going to have as a result of a decision that is made in Lincoln, Nebraska, or a local natural resources district that we may or may not have. So the ability for us to not only know in real time what our application rates are, what our cropping is imperative going forward. And so the utilization or the integration, what Terry talked to, is that platform of taking up that space and bringing or a particular set of vendors that you could maybe pick from that would fill your need or fill your basket. We see that as a competitive advantage for us. And we are aggressively in our operation and also in the group that I'm a part of trying to bring those together and have those conversations, because there is still some stranded infrastructure out there that aren't able either to visit or connect to these particular products, and they may or may not fit Steve or myself in our particular operations, but we need to be able to figure out how we can get that started.
Okay, Steve, your turn. Best thing he said and your question.
The best was the economy being local there at the end. Just, I think everybody's looking for a silver bullet, trying to get maybe information from somebody who isn't local to the area, so they don't know what our needs are. But taking their technology and taking it to your local agronomist who knows your area and knows your soils, I think is really critical.
Great. Now, Steve, you were helping out answering some chat questions, and there were some questions
Yeah,
about
that kind of got me busy here.
Well, that's okay. I think we ought to save detailed answers on those sensor questions with this group until the segue between crop metrics and United Ag. Let Nick lay out his stuff before we address those questions. But Nick and Terry, I'm going to go a little bit off script here because there's been a lot of attention paid to the interoperability between your two platforms. Can you tell us when you started talking? Just go back over when you started talking with each other. Has it just been a field of roses, figuring out how to make everything work, or have you had any challenges? And just tell us the story. How long have you been at it, and how's it going?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great thing. When we first got started was back in 2009 with the first introduction of first commercially available variable rate irrigation software. And one of the vital components to that we saw was if we were going to make this software successful, we had to make it simple and easy to use from a grower standpoint, really focus on that grower first and foremost. And to do that, we had to be able to feed our data and our variable rate irrigation prescriptions into that pivot controller. And at that time, which Terry alluded to back in his evolving of precision irrigation slide, we approached Agsense in 2010 to develop a system transfer that variable rate irrigation prescription to the pivot controller all wirelessly, so you didn't have to go back and forth from your computer to the pivot out in the field. And that really was the first stepping stone to making this technology easy to use from a grower standpoint.